Well, just like that, the second season of House of the Dragon has come to an end. Whilst it wasn't a finale that was filled with all-out warfare and epic battles, it stuck true to the theme of the entirety of the season and was more so focused on the preparation and setting up of what is to come when the battles do eventually begin in Season 3. With Alicent taking full control, Daemon seeing his own fate and the future of what's to come several generations down the line, and Aemond retaliating and coming to the realization that he could well lose this war now. Let's jump into the video and break down all that there was to take away from the season finale. Here is House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 8 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Alicent pretty much kickstarted this whole war at the back end of Season 1 when claiming that Viserys said that Aegon should be heir to the throne on his deathbed, even though he didn't. And throughout this season, we've seen her going on a journey of discovery and coming to the realization that the crown is the very thing that's tearing her family apart, the very thing that Viserys said the crown did to those who wore it. Alicent has been stripped of everything that once made up her whole identity. The crown, a place on the council, her father, the respect from her children, and even the certainty of her own mind. So she's a far different person now to who she was when we saw her at the beginning of Season 2. In the previous episode, we saw her leave the walls of King's Landing and enter a forest where for the first time in a long while, she just stopped, and she was able to think about what it is that she was going to do moving forward. We've come to see that she's so far removed from not only Aegon and Aemond, but she now wants to be there for her daughter Helaena in a completely different way. Helaena is the one person that's left in the family that hasn't been corrupted by the crown. In fact, Helaena even said that she was happier before she was queen, something which was in complete contrast to her brothers, hence why herself and Alicent feel so similar and there's a connection there. She still values and respects her mother and they're on a similar level. Alicent saw that Helaena could end up becoming a victim in this war, with Aemond wanting her to take Dreamfyre into battle. And I think that was the final straw that made Alicent go behind her son's back and speak with Rhaenyra about potentially ending this war in a way that doesn't have bloodshed across the realm, but is more direct. Alicent said a line which did truly show that she was transformed. She said, "I am at last myself." And she also said that she wanted to die, unremarked and free. She's seen the pain and suffering that yearning for the crown and power can bring, and she no longer wants anything to do with it. A couple of episodes back, we heard about her son that we've not seen before, Daeron, and how he was a thriving individual. Something which struck a nerve with her because she didn't raise him, and the children that she had raised had turned out to essentially be throwing the realm into warfare and were going against each other. So I think she's looking to end this war in the least violent way possible, whilst also getting Helaena out of the city. This is Alicent trying to prove to herself that she can do some good and protect a child, even if it comes at the cost of the head of one of her others. Alicent spent the entirety of her life being controlled by people and led down a pathway, most specifically by her father, and in recent times Aegon and Daemon. But now she understands that there is a way of her being able to live under her own rule and by making decisions for the bettering of herself. The fact that she was willing to let Rhaenyra claim the head of her son that is bedbound and is in the worst state that he's ever been in his life shows that she now sees the value in saving the lives of many, rather than the life of one that she cares about but has a destructive mindset. The very fact that she was there with the risk of Aemond finding out showed that she was almost in the last chance alone, and was prepared to die for peace to be brought amongst the realm and for the sake of her own family. With Alicent saying to Rhaenyra that she should go to King's Landing when Aemond was out at battle, and that she'd get the guards to bend the knee and allow her to be a conqueror, with the plan of killing Aegon being crucial to that, and Aegon no longer being there, I wonder how that will leave Alicent. Rhaenyra. During this episode, Rhaenyra was at the strongest point that she'd essentially ever been at since fleeing to Dragonstone. She had 6 dragons with the potential of Daemons as well, which would have made it 7, and she'd just stared down the person that killed her son at the end of Season 1. She was well in her right to strike first, and she had the ability and means to do so. However, it would have meant that many innocent lives would have been claimed. She basically wanted to force the Green's hands into a position where, due to the innocent lives that were being claimed, they'd almost need to falter their position for the greater good. Rhaenyra was winning, so when met with this proposition from Alicent, when she already felt as though she was going to win this war, it then provided more food for thought for her. This was an alternative to not need to kill the many in order to take what was rightfully hers. As of right now, it's difficult to predict what she's going to do, but with war being on the cusp of occurring on land, air, and sea, I don't think the plan that Alicent proposed is going to be something that will be successfully executed. Rhaenyra and Daemon's reunion in this episode was a moment that I felt all of us had been waiting for. Sir Simon Strong sent a message to Rhaenyra because she felt as though Daemon was going to betray her, when in reality, the vision that he had was the very thing that meant that he swore loyalty to her and viewed her as the rightful queen. We'll get into Daemon's visions and what it all meant in his section, but if you want that now, then the timestamp is on screen. However, with 7 dragons now under her wing, an army, the people of King's Landing on her side, and the Lord of the Tides commanding the sea, Rhaenyra is a force to be reckoned with right now, and I can't wait to see what approach she's going to take moving forward, and if she'll take the less destructive approach. A son for a son is the very thing that she wants, and with Alicent granting permission for that, but Aegon now being gone, the very thing that she felt she needed and the opposition being eliminated won't be there for her to claim. I like the fact that the war that is across the entirety of the realm can quite literally go in 2 different directions right now, and those directions are dictated by 2 women that are having a conversation in private whilst the rest of them prepare to sacrifice their lives. Aemond. With Aemond fleeing on Vhagar at the end of episode 7 due to being fearful of the Blacks and realizing that for the first time in his life he doesn't have the upper hand by simply just having Vhagar, he essentially threw his toys out the pram and acted a bit like Aegon. He acted on emotion and burnt Sharppoint to an unrecognizable state, claiming innocent lives just to feel as though he had some kind of power. Aemond showed himself to be the strategic brother when it came to warfare, so this showed the fragile state of his mind at that point and the direction that he can go in when challenged. Even the fact that he felt as though he needed to force Helaena on side and take Dreamfyre into battle showed just how desperate he was, forcefully handling her, something which reeked of desperation and fear, a way that we've not really seen the character before. The difference in the 2 sides at the moment, and for the first time, the main key difference between Aemond and Daemon, who have been so similar, is their perspective of what's unfolding. They both always felt as though they were the main player in the game, but after what Daemon witnessed, he's now gained a new perspective and realized that he's just one small part of everything that's going to unfold, whereas Aemond still views himself as player 1. With Helaena also sharing some home truths with Aemond in saying that she knew what he did to Aegon and that he was going to die and that Aegon would be king again, she put herself in a vulnerable position, but all Aemond could do was hold back the tears. Aemond has become as destructive as Aegon was at the start of the season, and his desire for the crown of the throne is destroying him, as it does all of those who try to wear it. Aemond doesn't have an ally in his sister or his mother anymore, and his brother Aegon is no longer there as he betrayed him, so he's pretty much alone on this. Aegon. Aegon took a backseat in the latter part of the season, but within this episode, I thought his role was really important. When Larys was telling him about the new dragon riders that Rhaenyra had acquired, he simply said, well, what was the point in all of this then? Showing that he almost had a new perspective on things because of the state that he was in, and he felt like the war was pretty much going to be over before it had even properly begun. He found an ally with Larys Strong this season, but they bonded even more when Larys saw himself in the way that Aegon was acting due to the fact that they both had a deformity. With Larys convincing Aegon to leave because of the threat of his brother and that he would look to kill him at the next opportunity, the last we saw of Aegon, he was going to Essos in a cart in disguise in order to heal and hopefully return when the war was over. This is so that he could look to claim what he felt was rightfully his. Daemon. Daemon's journey throughout this season was one which was pretty boring to watch, and I think a lot of us also felt the same about that. However, during this finale, we saw that it was kind of worth sticking with. Daemon was going on a journey of self-discovery as he was coming to terms with whether or not he should betray Rhaenyra and look to stake a claim to the Iron Throne himself, as that had always been something that he desired. Alice was a character that I found just as annoying as Daemon's arc, but she felt as though he was ready to see the vision in Godswood. This was where Daemon had a vision and saw everything that occurred in the future, and he was introduced to a Song of Ice and Fire. And it was here where he saw Rhaenyra ascend the Iron Throne and his viewpoint changed. As well as that, he saw the Three-Eyed Raven, a White Walker and the darkness that was looming, a dead dragon, he saw himself drowning, the princess that was promised in Daenerys Targaryen at the point where she had her 3 dragons hatching from their eggs, Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne, and then randomly Helaena Targaryen, who almost pieced it all together for him and told him that he knew what he had to do. Something which made him realize that their legacy goes far beyond their own lifetime, and that the darkness that was looming was only going to be defeated by a realm that was united. And with his brother, King Viserys, naming Rhaenyra as heir, he now felt as though she was the person that would be able to bring that. With Daemon commanding the army at the end, it was nice to see him back to his usual self. We had a whole season of him just within his own mind, and it was a shame, because we know what type of person he is and how well he can impact the show. So I'm hoping we'll see more of Season 1 Daemon in Season 3. Helaena. Helaena has always exhibited these dragon dreaming abilities, and we've seen her predicting certain events in the future before. But within this episode specifically, we saw that she appeared in Daemon's vision, but as well as that, she told Aemond that she'd seen his death. What was interesting about this was Aemond's arc was mirroring Daemon's again. They were both told by people that have these abilities that their end was on the horizon, and they were informed about how it would happen. She said to Aemond, "You were swallowed up in the god's eye and never seen again." Something which was very direct and abrupt, unlike her usual metaphorical approach. There's going to be spoilers for the book here, so this is your warning. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Aemond does actually end up dying in the God's Eye when he flies to Harrenhal with the intention of fighting with Daemon. So her drifting from her metaphorical approaches in her visions to those of being more direct is an interesting and an important direction that the character's taken. With her also mentioning that she saw what Aemond did to Aegon, it shows that even though she's not on screen, she's seeing everything as it unfolds. So the information that she does know is extremely important. So Criston Cole. This was a scene in the episode that I felt was kind of underplayed, and ever since episode 4 of the show, we've seen Criston Cole transform as an individual. He's never been a man that's backed down from a fight or been afraid of stepping into battle, but when he saw ashes and bones scattered across the battlefield due to the breath of the dragon, his whole perspective on what he was doing and where he was leading the men changed. In the finale, Cole said, "The dragons dance, and men are like dust at their feet. We march towards our annihilation." This is a dangerous mindset for him to have because it shows that he's pretty much welcoming death. What he saw in episode 4 scarred him, and for the first time he saw exactly what dragons could do and how they could defeat an army in minutes, introducing him to a type of war that he'd never seen before. I feel we almost saw him mourning the love that he had for Alicent as well. He missed her, and the wiping of his blade with her cloth did pretty much symbolize that. My review of the episode. I thought this was a good episode of the show. Granted, there wasn't much action and it did kind of feel like it was just about prepping us for Season 3, but it was interesting seeing the dynamic change and the betrayal that Alicent was prepared to do. Considering she was single-handedly responsible along with her father for putting Aegon on the throne and this feud becoming a reality. Jace's jealousy is something that has been quite humorous to watch. It's clear to see that he feels inferior at the moment, but we're yet to see him prove himself. And when he sat there pouting and sulking, you can kind of see why Ulf has come in and not shown any respect to him. Rhaena finding the wild dragon was something that I thought was interesting, as if she does manage to claim it, that will strengthen the Blacks even more. 8 dragons, that's insane. When looking at this season as a whole, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it as much as I did Season 1. There's something about shows this year, especially the summer, whether it's The Bear, The Boys, or this, where they've just been seasons that have been focused on setting up the ones that are going to follow it. This season definitely had an identity, but there were arcs and moments that were just a bit bland. I actually found Alicent's arc to be the most interesting. I found her story extremely relatable and it felt very human. I also thought Aemond's journey of yearning for the throne and power and seeing it consume him was enjoyable to follow as well. Episode 4 was the standout episode in this season for me, so the show did peak about halfway, but the season as a whole has enabled the story to develop, which is the most important thing. It's just a shame that we're going to have to wait another 2 years probably until it arrives on our screens again. So, there you have it, House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 8, Ending Explained. What did you think of the finale? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, be sure to hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.